Hi, and thanks for coming to another Dean Meetup. The meetups are what the campaign's all about. Together, you brought us from being an asterisk in the polls to being the greatest grassroots campaign in history. You've captured the imagination of the entire country, and I can't thank you enough. We're showing the pundits in Washington that people do have the power to change the future of America. We're less than 100 days away from the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary, and only 1 year away from the general election. For the next 3 months, we need everyone to do everything they can to help us win in Iowa and New Hampshire. We have a tremendous battle ahead of us, and that's why we need your help to keep bringing new people into this campaign every single day. We're fighting against an administration that's transformed our government from a government participated in by all to a government flooded with special interest money that's accessible to only a few. The stakes in this election are high: our economy, our environment, our children's schools, our health care. Over the past few months, you did something that no other campaign can match. You built the strongest grassroots network in the history of American politics, and it's what's going to make the difference when we go up against President Bush 1 year from today. You brought almost 500,000 people into this campaign. You broke the world record for the number of people in a conference call during national house calls. You raised $25 million and you sent over 50,000 personal letters to Iowa and New Hampshire. Those letters helped lift us to the top of the polls in both states. We have a lot of work to do still. During the next 3 months, I need your help. I need you to keep reaching out to Iowa caucus goers and New Hampshire voters in any way that you can. I've spoken with a lot of people in Iowa and New Hampshire, and they've told me what a difference your letters and your calls have made. Over the next 100 days, we have the opportunity to take what you've built and use it to win in Iowa and New Hampshire and in your home states. For the first time in campaign history, people from all over the country can directly affect the outcome of the primary process. We're going to pair every state with a different county in Iowa or New Hampshire so you can get to know the people you're writing and calling. And I hope you'll even consider going to volunteer in these states, because we're going to need thousands of people on the ground in order to win. Thank you so much, all of you, for the tremendous work you've done so far, and remember, the power to change this country is in your hands, not mine.
I'm Joe Trippi, the campaign manager for Howard Dean, and I like to say that the great American myth of politics is that I'm running this campaign, because frankly, it's really that there's 462,000 Americans who do all the work and tend to make me and a bunch of people in Burlington look really good, but it's you who are running this campaign, and that's why I wanted to spend this time talking to you today. I want to thank every one of you for attending the meetup and for everything you've done for this campaign from the very beginning. The campaign would not exist if it wasn't for your efforts and those that came before you and those of you who are there today to help us. It has been absolutely amazing. From the number of people meeting up across this country on a monthly basis, organizing in your local neighborhoods, making a difference for us in Iowa and New Hampshire, and also putting us on the map in terms of the resources and the contributions that I know are so tough for many of you to make. I want to make clear a couple things. The first is that we believe, and the campaign believes, that what moved us into the lead in Iowa and New Hampshire were the personal letters that you sent to those two states. It's clear from the public polling data that it wasn't until after those letters hit in Iowa that Howard Dean went into the lead in Iowa. And the same phenomenon occurred again. It was after the letters that you sent to New Hampshire reached New Hampshire that the first public polls started showing us taking the lead in that state. We believe that the power of your personal contact is part of the key to winning both states. So what we know, a lot of people are tired of writing letters. I cannot overstate how much impact your letters have had on the people of Iowa and New Hampshire, how deeply you've touched the voters in Iowa and New Hampshire. Your personal contact with them through those letters has made a huge difference, and we believe it's the reason we've moved in the polls in both states. It is important, and that's why we need to ask you to one more time for the next 90 days, in the series of meetings that you have left between Iowa and New Hampshire, to please commit yourselves to helping us make whatever difference you can make in terms of writing letters, in terms of reaching out, in terms of building a relationship with an Iowa or New Hampshire voter, we need your effort. It's a big asset. It can make the major difference in winning those 2 states. And we, make no mistake about it, we have to win those 2 states. If we can win them, then the momentum that you've built for the last 9 months will really continue to move into states like Arizona and New Mexico and Oklahoma and Washington State and Wisconsin and all the other states, moving into California and New York. We need to keep the momentum rolling. We have a big opportunity, and your efforts are what is a big part of making the difference in Iowa and New Hampshire. The last thing I want to say to you, and this is really important, you helped us break Bill Clinton's record for raising money in a quarter. He had set a record at $10.3 million. He did it as the sitting president of the United States in 1995. Howard Dean didn't break that record. You broke it by contributing nearly over $14.8 million in the last quarter. I want to make sure everybody in our organization understands why this is so important. It's the most important thing that everybody in our campaign and the organization, and what you need to spread the word on for the rest of this campaign. George Bush raised $48 million in that same quarter. He has no primary opponent. His goal, and Karl Rove's goal, is to raise $200 million and spend it on attacking Howard Dean, or whoever the Democratic nominee is, and we believe it will be Howard Dean, between April and August of next year. $200 million to zero. And the reason it's going to be zero is because we can only spend $45 million, and all the money that we're raising right now will be drained by the efforts it will take to compete with Gephardt in Iowa and John Kerry in New Hampshire and the other candidates throughout the rest of the 50 states. At the end of those 50 states, whoever the Democrat is will be broke, will be limited to spending $45 million, and will have spent it. And then George Bush and Karl Rove, without having a primary candidate, will then proceed to spend $200 million between April and August of next year, destroying everything we've built. They'll do that by attacking Howard Dean, attacking everything we all stand for, and distorting his views and what we stand for to the rest of the country, with us having an inability to compete. This campaign from the very beginning asked a critical question. How could we compete with George Bush between April and August? And there is only one way to do that. The question is, are there 2 million Americans who would contribute $100 to Howard Dean's campaign to defeat George Bush, get him out of the White House, and put somebody who stands on principle and our values in the White House? So we know that Howard Dean's in the White House. We know who owns it. You do. Now, we have to get 2 million Americans to contribute $100. And the problem is, how do you do that? We thought about it. If 1,000 of us came to dinner tonight and contributed $100 to Howard Dean, and we did it the old-fashioned way, forget about how we pay for the chicken dinner, 1,000 people contributing $100 tonight at a dinner would be $100,000. If you do that for 10 nights, it's $1 million. If you do that for 100 nights, it's $10 million. If you do that for 1,000 nights, it's $100 million. And if you do it for 2,000 nights, it's $200 million. You finally have the $200 million you need to compete with George Bush and remove him from the White House. The problem is, it would take 2,000 nights is 6 years. 6 years. We don't have 6 years, but what we do have, there's one medium in the world that will allow 2 million Americans to contribute $100 in one day, if they all chose to do it, to get rid of this president and to instill someone with our values and our principles who's willing to fight for what we believe in, Howard Dean, in the White House. Our goal is not to raise money for raising money's sake. We are raising this money to compete not with John Kerry, not with John Edwards, not with Dick Gephardt, not with General Clark, but with George Bush. You've proven that we can compete with the Democrats. For 2 quarters, you've sustained us as no one else has ever done. Now, the critical issue for this campaign has to become, can we find the 2 million Americans who will contribute $100 each? There are 400 462,000 of you across this country have already signed up for Howard Dean. If each one of us, if each one of the 462,000 people contributed $100 in this quarter, it would be $46 million. Not to compete, it would eliminate, the nominating fight would be over in that one day that we did it. But the more important thing would be that George Bush and the special interests would be on notice, that the people have come together and joined together in small contributions of $100 to defeat them and return this democracy back to the people. The power to do this is in your hands. The governor says this every day. But what's more important is we have to get to that number. We have to get hundreds of thousands of more folks to join our cause and to understand that it's not just enough to vote for us. They have to be willing to contribute something in terms of time or money, and a very small amount of money, $100. If we all do it, we'll not only win the nomination, we'll win the White House. I fear that I have not been able to communicate this to enough people, that there's a reason that we keep banging the drum on $100 from everybody. It's because it's the only way we can compete with George Bush. And so I need your help to spread the word. We need to make this about the next 90 days about Iowa and New Hampshire. But we also need to make this about having everybody in the organization understand the importance of their small contribution to make a huge difference, not just in this nominating fight, not just against George Bush, but that effort combined will change America's politics forever. Only we have the power to do that, and only you can make it happen by spreading the word, by understanding how important that $100 contribution is. And it won't be done just by you. You've been there, I know you're tired, I know you've all worked hard, but now we need to make it count. Everyone in our organization must get this message. Please spread the word. Thank you.
In the world, you know, from the perspective of the United States.
My goodness. Is the Guinness Book of Records here? Hi, how are you?
Welcome to Los Angeles. I'm Bill the hospice.
Very nice to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, but it's a pleasure to meet you. Good to meet you. No, it's our pleasure. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Our pleasure. How's our daughter Chelsea?
Very nice to see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dean for America's House Call with Dr. Howard Dean, MD, will now begin. Thank you and good evening. My name is David Saley, Dean for America's Director of House Party Fundraising. I'll be your moderator for this evening's historic event, Dr. Dean's House Call. I'd first like to introduce our special guest for the evening, however, musician Melissa Etheridge. Ms. Etheridge?
You muted her by mistake.
Oh, an unprecedented event where we are making history, definitely going into the Guinness Book of World Records by having the largest conference call in history, and you are part of it with your support here. The man that I know and I feel in my heart will be the next president of the United States, and you know that too. He's here to answer your questions. He's here to talk to you, to be there for you. My favorite man, ladies and gentlemen, Governor Howard Dean.
Thank you, Melissa. We can't have any applause because if you take everybody off mute, we'll never get this done. Let me thank Gary and his family, all of whom are here, trapped. These teenagers are trapped here in politics. Let me thank all of you for doing this. I'm not going to give a big, long speech because I know you all have questions. First of all, thank you for raising money. We're in the last 2 days of the quarter. George Bush is taking in all those $2,000 checks from Ken Lay and the boys, and we're taking in $82 apiece from Americans all over the country. And this is a great way to do it. We really, really appreciate your being on this and being part of this. Secondly, the way we're going to beat George Bush is not to be Bush light. We're not going to be Washington insiders, and we're not going to try to be Washington insiders. We're going to stand up for what we believe. We're going to be proud to be Democrats again, and we're going to give the 50% of Americans in this country who haven't voted in a while a reason to vote. That's how you beat a guy who can get all those $2,000 checks, is to get millions of people to come out and to vote. And this time, the person with the most votes is going to the White House.
All righty. Welcome back. This is the most fascinating part of this job, getting to meet the men and women who will one day go on to lead this country. I'm fascinated this happens to me. Until recently, my next guest was an obscure former governor from Vermont, but thanks to the internet and a very scrappy campaign, he's become the #1 contender for the Democratic presidential nomination. Please welcome Howard Dean. That was the campaign wave.
That's right, that's
yeah.
right. This is...
Got that, how that, the brisk kind of thing, yeah, just manly enough, you know, you can.
I didn't used to be able to do that, but
No?
I had a lot of practice.
Yeah, you got to practice doing the wave. Now, your background is interesting. I know your family is Republican, right?
That's true.
Staunch.
My mother, I won't say how old she is, but she changed her registration this year so she could vote for me in the New York primary.
Oh, that's right.
First time
What
ever.
did she say? What did your mother say? I mean, you're a doctor, and you go, Mom, I'm going to run for... Was she the first person you told?
No.
No.
My wife.
Okay, your wife.
Kids,
Okay.
right.
But what did your mom say?
The quote in the magazine was, "Why, that's preposterous, and besides, it's very expensive."
Oh, well, that's
It's true.
Oh, just shut up and get back to work. I mean, did she take you seriously?
I don't think so.
No? But she takes it seriously now.
She does. She does.
Now, you practiced medicine, but you didn't want to be a doctor originally either, correct? What were you...
Oh, my checkered past. You've done all the research. I left college, didn't know what I wanted to do, ended up working on Wall Street for 2 years.
You left college or graduated college?
No, I graduated from college.
Okay, graduated.
I did.
Okay. Well, you said you left college.
This is getting to be a little like Tim Russert, isn't it?
Let's turn that light on and bring it over your head. Now, you said then you become a doctor.
Then I became a doctor.
So how do you go from doctor? How long did you practice medicine before you went into politics?
About 10 years, because when you're in politics in Vermont, I was in the legislature, I was lieutenant governor. That's all part-time job. So I was practicing with my wife in my practice, and one day I got a phone call from the governor's office, and the governor dropped dead of a heart attack at the age of 63, and I was the governor. So I never really decided to leave medicine.
Didn't I see this show on Fox? So you're a doctor who then becomes, he's the governor. It sounds like it's all right. So then you become, so now you're the governor. Now
That's true.
So this is your calling now.
It was a very interesting time. One of my snide remarks that I talk about in this speech about the president is I served as governor long enough so that I served through both Bush recessions, not just one.
Right.
And
now, are you a cheapskate like Catherine? Would your family say you're cheap?
Yes.
Thrifty? What?
I am cheap.
Cheap? Yeah, real cheap?
Really cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
Embarrassingly cheap.
Really?
I have a suit that I used to wear that I bought when I was lieutenant governor for $125 at J.C. Penney. And it was such a great suit that I just used to love it. And so I'd always wear it, and people would make remarks about it, but I was the governor, so they couldn't make too many remarks. So one time I went on a trade mission to Argentina, and I was in Argentina with the president of the Chamber of Commerce, who was this former Reagan White House staffer. We were pretty good friends, and he didn't make too many personal remarks, but one day the suit was really in bad shape. So I said, okay, Wayne, tomorrow, before we go home, we're going to burn the suit. So that was great. He was really looking forward. He bought champagne for everybody that night. So I went and hung the trousers in the closet, and the next day I got up to take the plane, and there was not a wrinkle in the place. I said, I can't burn a suit that doesn't have any wrinkles in it. So I said, okay. So I wore it home. It had no wrinkles. And I thought that it was all ripped inside. It was terrible. So I said, well, this is, and it was a long plane ride. We missed the plane. It was about a 20-hour trip home. So I got home, I said, okay, this is ridiculous, we're going to throw it out. But just to see what'll happen, I'll clean the pants by throwing them in the washing machine.
You put the suit in the washing machine?
I put the suit in the washing machine. So I turned the washing machine on. The next day, out comes the suit, not a wrinkle there, perfectly pressed. I still have the suit. It's true.
Now that sounds like an Alec Guinness movie I saw.
That's why I'm a fiscal conservative, and that's what this country needs, right?
That's right. Let me ask you, now I see you. I've watched you in the debates, and you look like you have a temper. Do you have a temper?
Certainly not.
Well, you look like, well, you're never going to go into acting, I'll tell you that. That's for sure. Forget that. Forget that.
No, it is one of the interesting things. You know, we came from an asterisk in January, thanks to a lot of people here. I mean, we have We're just hit 450,000 people.
Well, I read today you've raised more money than even Clinton, who was king of the fundraisers.
Right.
But very quietly, you don't seem like I don't hear about money coming in. And then today I read you've raised $12.9 million more in a quarter than any other Democrat.
What we did was we went out and got 150,000 people to give us $82 apiece. That's the way to raise money, and that's the way to beat George Bush. He's got all those $2,000 checks. We're going to go out and get 1 million people to give us $82, and we're going to win.
Well, we have a tape of you. I'll show you. His fundraising is rather unorthodox. Well, I caught you fundraising earlier today. Do we have that tape? Quite a gifted guitar player. I remember seeing you about 8 years ago in concert. Do we have that footage? With The Who? I think it was with The Who. Yeah, that's what it was. What's the biggest fear? What's the biggest fear? What could derail this thing? What could go?
I never think about that.
No?
And I know this seems odd, but I never think about what could derail it. All I think about is going one step at a time. My favorite proverb is, the longest journey begins with a single step, and you just keep stepping and stepping and stepping until you get there.
Well, good luck, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you. Very nice.
Thank you.
Howard Dean, be right back with Lyle Lovett.
To be here for Governor Howard Dean, the next President of the United States. But now, I'd like to introduce you to the current president, at least on television. Martin Sheen.
I'm deeply honored at this time to introduce the man of the hour, the man of the year, the man of the future, the man who has rekindled the fire of hope in a new generation and reignited the dreams of the disenfranchised. The man who dares to call us forth and reach for that place newly remembered and devoutly wished for in Tagore's powerful and prayerful poem, where the heart is without fear, and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sands of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action into that heaven of freedom, my Father. Let my country awake. Ladies and gentlemen, the next President of the United States, Howard Dean.
It's almost midnight on the East Coast. We got 3 hours to go here. We're at 14,750,000 with 200,000 donors from around America. And the way that we're going to beat President Bush with all those $2,000 checks is to get us 1 million people to give us $82 apiece. Because this country does not belong to John Ashcroft and Jerry Falwell and Rush Limbaugh anymore. This country is going to be taken back by the people of the United States of America, and that includes you. The way we're going to beat this president is not to try to be like him. It's to stand up for democratic ideals, health insurance, jobs again in this country, a foreign policy which is consistent with American values, and we're going to give the 50% of Americans who've given up on voting in this country a reason to vote, because they're going to be able to tell the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And when we do, we're going to bring 3 or 4 million people back into the electoral process who either didn't vote or voted for Ralph Nader the last time, and when they vote, they're going to vote for Democrats, and when they do, we're going to have more votes than the president, and this time the person with the most votes is going to the White House.